All you need is your national ID or driver's license or passports and internet access, and you're good to go. No more waiting in long queues, as you can now acquire a tin instantly from wherever you are. Remember, it's free. Experience our new and improved modern interface that is user-friendly.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Capo, you seem to be in a hurry. Where are you going to?
I'm gonna pay URA visit.
Why would anyone visit URA? Of all places?
To know more about the Kakasa business solutions, namely digital tracking solution, the voluntary disclosure program and electronic fiscal receipting, and invoicing solution, which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Capo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Wait, Abu, tunamaliriza. And what are you doing throwing papers all over the place?
I'm looking for an invoice for a sound system and cables that I received yesterday, but I can't find it.
You know there is a way of keeping all this in one place and available to you as and when you need it.
I really wish there was one, because the way these invoices grow legs and disappear.
I believe this is what you're looking for.
Now how did it get there?
Tabo! Do you know that with EFRIS, you can stay on track of all your business transactions and improve on your record keeping?
How so?
Kati tuli ku computer with EFRIS. I just search using the fiscal document number and I retrieve the records I'm looking for. Bookkeeping becomes simple after that.
Capo, awesome, yeah.
I began using URA's Kakasa solutions and now I'm in charge of my business. And you can as well.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
That's my little angel Rose. Together with millions of other children, my daughter Rose is assured of learning something new every day. Moses, my husband, just like many other commercial farmers, has his business supported so he can provide for us. When my other little one was on the way, even with my pregnancy complications, it was a quick, smooth ride to Mulago Specialized Women and Neonatal Hospital. Also, my new baby was able to make it through his first days with the help of specialized equipment thanks to the reliable electricity which has also been extended throughout the country. All this and more has been made possible because of you.
Join us and together let's do more for our country. Get your free tin at www.ura.go.ug.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Mugasha, did you see the game last night?
I slept looking for a receipt. Up to now I'm still looking for it.
What kind of receipt?
There is a certain receipt I need to file my returns. I'm trying to find it.
By the way, Do you know these guys of URA asked for 3 million from me?
Me, I paid 500,000 only.
You mean you pay only 500,000?
Yes.
They asked for 3 million. Why am I being asked to pay more?
I don't know.
You must know. We have the same level of capital, same rent, same premises. We even meet the same expenses. Why am I being taxed more?
I don't know. But for me, I sent my income and expenses via the URA website.
So they are punishing me because I did not send that through the website. Mugisha, you know these things. You know the type of expenses we go through here.
I know. But how will URA believe you if you don't write them down or keep records for your receipt as proof for your income and expenses for your butchery?
Mugisha, you mean you write all these things down?
Yes, I do. I write every detail. You see, the good, the amount, and the person involved.
But where do you get the time to write all this?
Immediately the transaction is done, or at the end of the day. But at minimum, I must know the income and expenses for each day. Otherwise, it is very easy to forget or confuse.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Acquiring a tin is now easier than ever.
Okay. A good morning to everyone, and a good morning to all our viewers. This is to welcome you from everything that you've been doing, and thank you for joining us today. This is our part 2 of the last webinar that we had last week, and it was such a very good discussion for every one of us. And our guests are back, and I'm so grateful that everything we discussed last week, we haven't gotten any problems about whatever thing that was discussed. And this week again, we still have the same people discussing. However, it's going to be more of an intensive discussion on the very things that really pinch the education sector and the education system. My name is Jotham, and I would love to welcome you to the second part of the taxation of the education system. Hafsa, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, and Mr. Christopher.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Thank you, Jotham.
Yeah. Hajat Ndifuna, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Jotham, and good morning to our viewers.
Yes. There are some mistakes that usually happen in the sector or in the field of taxation. However, today we are going to debunk most of those things, and our guru here, Hafsa, is going to really show us what we really need to be doing. And the discussion will also be quite intensive on the side of our teachers, our educators. Hafsa, there are some mistakes that really happen in when schools are really doing their return filing and so on and so forth.
Yes.
What are some of these mistakes, first of all? And we shall hear from Hajat Ndifuna and Christopher on their side, how how have they really been sorting out these issues? First and foremost, we have the issue of the temporary staff. When they are filing returns, it has been discovered that sometimes they don't really show these people. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Like any other establishment, a school can have temporary staff that probably could come in to beef up in one way or the other. But ideally, in the same thinking, they are not working for free. Let me make an assumption they are being paid. But we need to look at how much they are paid. Because when I look at their income, and at the end of the day their income is not exempted, I would advise the school establishment to see that as you are filing your pay-as-you-earn return, these temporary staff are included in the return. Because since they earn income that is in excess of 235, at that particular time, that is when you need to deduct the pay-as-you-earn, because they may be working for you maybe for about 6 months. Then ideally when they go, it will be very clear that at that particular time you're not going to represent them. It's like laying off somebody. If they are with you today, then probably in 2-3 months they are laid off. Then you will equally not include them, because you have justifications of why actually they are no longer with you. So for temporary staff, we need to consolidate what they are paid, because they may not be entitled to all the benefits like maybe permanent staff, but whatever they are entitled to is what we consolidate and represent it, and we apply the pay-as-you-earn rates depending on the bracket where they fall. That could be one. And others could have probably outsourced staff. Normally when you outsource, we look at people outsourcing, maybe consultants in one way or the other. So consultants at times come as expatriates. So these consultants actually may not be on your pay-as-you-earn return, but you withhold because they are professionals. Because in the Income Tax Act, it's very clear. Section, I think 120, around there, talks about withholding on professionals, and it's at 6%. So whether you are a designated agent or not, once a professional supplies you services, then ideally you need to withhold at 6% before you could pay them whatever is there in for them. Technical staff. So technical, I don't know technical in terms of being an expatriate, a consultant, or just technical, because I could be technical staff in URA, but the mode of employment is permanent. They employed me as a permanent staff. So ideally I have to be, or I have to appear on the pay return of that particular entity. But if I'm outsourced as a consultant, then the format changes. Then whoever is outsourcing me, if it's the school, they will need to withhold at the end of it all. So it depends upon the terms of employment or contract that is available, say for technical staff and maybe those on contract. But ideally, I can be on contract when I'm still under the normal arrangement. So somebody on contract will have to be included in the pay return. Yes, you're permanent in nature of some sort, but your contract runs for a particular time. Say you came to accomplish a particular duty maybe for about 5 or so years. So when the 5 years elapse, ideally you will be moving on. It's like an NGO, they normally hire on contract. You are there maybe for 3 years, the term of the project that you're managing. So those same people, staff, have to be reflected on the pay return. And pay has to take course depending on what your income is and which pay bracket applies to you. That is what we use.
Okay, thank you so much, Hafsa. Hajat Ndifuna.
Yes, please.
Now, you've heard from Hafsa. Now, please explain to us, because it has come out that some things are really skipped during when you're filing. You find that temporary staff We don't know. But
Or do they even have them? Because among us, what I have said, she may say, bano sibalina bonna. So
there are those that she may have or Crystal may have, but when they are filing their returns, they're like, maybe what? You can't tell us. You can't tell us.
Thank you, Jotham and Hajat, and for this platform, I should say. This education, tax education, related to education institutions, how I wish it had come much earlier than today. And I want to, better late than never. And I want to interest URA through Hajat that this education is absolutely necessary. We are bringing so many things on board. New taxes coming in. And at the stage of implementation is when we are doing the teaching. Or the teaching is coming, the implementation is coming in a very hasty manner. When the budget is read and presented to the nation, you realize that there are new taxes, not only to education, but even to other sectors. Now, what does it mean to the taxpayer? That if something is new, there is need to be educated. There is need to train people of how they are going to become compliant. And that's why I'm saying, Hajat and team, much as better late than never, we still need this tax education.
But
and also
the mistake
the continuous interaction. Because when you say you're starting paying this tax in August, you give me the education. There has to be room, there has to be a window between the two of us to help us hear from one another. Because you don't start and you are perfect at day one. You start but you face challenges, like you are saying. So we need the tax education to be continuous, especially in those areas that are new and are coming up. I'm sure we have moved a journey. Hajat, you recall that even pay as you earn some years ago was a problem. Corporate tax was a problem. But now, people are gradually getting on board. I feel bad because the people I represent are going to think that we have come here to advocate for education institutions paying taxes. But what they expect us to do is to say, no, we do not deserve to pay taxes because we are making a noble contribution, a very great service to this country. So I hope we shall not be misunderstood. That is actually the reason why I'm saying we need this tax education to understand the challenges that we are going through. I appreciate we have moved to a certain extent, but even before all of us are there 100%, again, we have more new things that are being introduced along the way. So, Jotham, information, we are here for an interactive, informative, educative discussion so that we build a relationship that we need to understand one another. We need to keep hearing from one another so that when Hajat is not here and has left something to be done, whoever comes in after her will not simply say, this is how things here are done, and we do not even want to listen to any excuse. So let the discussion be continuous, let the education be continuous, because it's a sector that is growing. It is a sector that is growing. It is a sector where you are looking at new things every time you are looking into the budget and the laws and so on and so forth. So I want to say that the challenges we are still going through are quite many in relation to taxation. We want a continuous and a formal structure within which we can work together. I'm not here to advocate for schools or education institutions to pay taxes. But I'm here to request URA and government and maybe Ministry of Finance to also understand the dynamics in our core service, in our core business. That as education institutions, our main business is education, is to teach, is to give a service. So if you want me to understand how to support income generation or revenue collection in the country, then you have to be aware that you have to move with me or carry me along with you the journey to understand and appreciate this contribution that you want me to participate in.
Okay, thank you so much, Hajat. However, my question was...
Yes.
In regards to what Hajat Hafsa explained, there are mistakes that usually happen when you're filing the returns.
And exactly, that is why I was saying the education should be continuous. It should be there right from the inception. Already now we are finding difficulties in filing withholding tax. But we are getting communication. You have not submitted your withholding tax for the month of October. Did I know what I'm supposed to do? If I wasn't given opportunity to get the training, to go take me through, what about the people from whom I'm getting the withholding tax? Are they aware that that is what they are supposed to do? The other time, Hajat, we shared with you that some people don't have TIN numbers.
Exactly.
Some people don't have TIN numbers. Some people even are hearing of something that is very new because this came on board in August of this year. So people are not aware. Okay, so the taxpayer and the payee and my boss who is implementing the policy, we need to have a table, we need to have a platform where to make sure that the work is perfect, the work progresses, I don't have issues, you don't have issues, and I'm not challenged along the way. Because what is so painful, at the end of the day, like Hajat has said, we have people who are giving money, maybe facilitators, maybe coming in for a short time. What have you called them? Temporary employees. But if I don't know that I'm supposed maybe to get some money from these temporary employees, and even when I'm negotiating with them, I'm not telling them that you have to pay this money because of that lack of original education.
Definitely, tax education is continuous.
Yes, it
continuous.
is.
Because each and every day a
them.
challenge comes up, the system changes. There are many issues that come up, new players come on board, and ideally we need to do it on a continuous basis.
It has to be on a continuous
because,
basis.
definitely
I was
issues
going
could be
to say,
unique.
Hajat, before, I'm sorry, but I was going to say, you know, that comes back to pinch me.
Definitely.
The owner of the organization. You didn't pay this, you did not. When Hajat comes and does that assessment and says, people have gone around, I have paid them their money.
Exactly.
Because I didn't have that tax education, I wasn't able to implement. Now, the pinch comes back to me. I had collected Micah small income, Micah small profit, then URA comes, kubieka assessment, na penalty, na interest. Now, ne education ye kulaga nti wano woino genda if you have a challenge. Olusinga tokolachi, ngatojina. Next thing, tukugaddewo. Or accounts to the blocking it. So all these issues that come along are actually frustrating the sector. They're frustrating us. We think we are trying to be compliant, but they get you from another angle. You know, because of that lack of education. I told you, for us, we are teachers. We teach history, chemistry, but now you want us to understand the entire tax law and the process and implementation. And then, so, Hajat and Jotham, I think I can.
We will help you to understand moving forward, because part of our mandate is to handhold you and see that your compliance is at its best. Because we wouldn't be happy when we close you. And we were not happy when you even close by yourselves, because that means my tax register is reducing by those number of people probably who didn't come back, or the schools that closed in COVID and maybe turned into something else, or didn't even come back, or didn't turn into any other business. So that means I am at a loss. I am losing something. So ideally, Hajati could be right in one or the other. We need to handhold them. This is a continuous process, because it's difficult to expect tax from somebody, yet you were not there in the beginning to create awareness, to walk the journey with them until the time when they are giving me that return. So ideally, I need to play my part up to that time. Kati njagala weekwase nti ate the return is not coming through, yet I have done all it takes on my side to make you put you in position to play your role.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Jotham. And I again want to thank URA for this opportunity. The journey has started. As I told you, so many people fear URA. And when they hear you going to URA, it's like you're taking yourself.
But Mr. Mugonya, from the other time to now, I think the fear has reduced.
I said so many
by
people.
Your advocacy.
So many people, but I want to thank you for this opportunity. And about the same, I want to begin from where Hajat has ended, tax education. According to your your concerns, temporary staff, technical staff and whatever. This also shows me that so many people in URA don't understand our sector.
Yes.
So when it comes to policy making, I think we are left out. There are some other people who make policies where you are not included.
And they are not in our sector.
And they are not in our sector. So when it comes to taxation, that's why I always say that education is special. Let me say that it's new. It's a special service. If we just read the policies and whatever, we may end up doing more harm than good. Tax education, as she has said, I think it has even to go down. I thank Hajat, yeah. I always hear her on different media and whatever, but it also has to go down. For example, in schools, we conduct beginning of term meetings. Every district in Uganda. If you could ask for such opportunity, and we don't go to assess, maybe we first go and collect ideas. One of the issues to handle, we collect ideas. Which type of staff do you have in private school? For me, the private schools I know, they only have staff on contract. I don't know whether they are those ones who are permanent and whatever. We use the contract basis. They may be whatever. We don't have permanent, we don't have whatever, these other technical and whatever. Most of them are on contract. But if we use the policies made by people who have not made any consultation, we may go wrong. There are some other industries, maybe production, where they have Sumanya lithos, Sumanya whatever. But when it comes to education, it is quite special. And for me, what I know about implementation, let me quote, much as I'm with the Hajats, but I can quote the Bible.
It is well okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's well okay.
There is a verse which tells, I think it was a parable, that when somebody slaps you on one cheek,
you put the other.
You just turn the other. But who can do that? Even if you call the bishops. Somebody slaps a bishop or a pastor. No pastor can do that, but it is in the Bible. If you just follow it like that, then you may not manage to Christianity. It is the same way. If we go on policy, semanya aksi, semanya this and this, we need to go down and understand education, the way it operates. And I think that's why the president gave us the first lady to be the minister, to come and save education. Otherwise, if we could not get any other better somebody to understand us, we know Mama, the first lady, can get the president anytime and then tells him our problems. Otherwise, with the private schools, if you just read an act which was made by somebody who is not an educationalist, most of them are maybe accountants. According to the terms you use, the way she said, we teach history, we teach RE, personal, I teach music. These terms are not there. If you just come, you have not done this, you have not done this, we are not understanding them all. Let that education also be double-edged. that you don't just come to educate us, but also come to learn our concerns, our problems, the way we operate. Otherwise, if we just take education like any other business, we may end up messing up. Yet education is a key basic need to our nation.
Thank you so much, Christopher. Our viewers, questions are really welcome. You can bring in as many questions as possible. To Hafsa, someone has asked, do institutions such as NGOs are they allowed to withhold from schools?
Thank you very much. We have NGOs that we designated for withholding tax. So when an NGO is designated, depending on who is supplying it, that service or good. So whoever the supplier is, once the supplier is not exempted, and neither their services or goods are not exempted anywhere, ideally they need to withhold. So as simple as that. So you go in the detail of what are they supplying. Exactly.
Yeah. I think, Peter, your question has been really answered. And
And maybe what we need to make clear with NGOs, there are times misinterpret. These NGOs, depending on the object of the NGO, they are there either to support the girl child, to foster this and all that. So at times they end up supporting children to keep in school.
Yes.
Supporting them implies that they will pay
their tuition and
So the bank slip or the fees is not a service where you need to deduct.
True.
Because I remember when I engaged them, they were saying, after we pay, we pay the
School fees.
And do we need to deduct? No, you don't deduct. You don't
need to withhold.
You don't deduct school fees
it
that you're paying in a school.
Not anywhere. Here we are looking at supply of
service or an item.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hafsa, for that answer. I guess, Peter, your question has been answered. Yes, Hajat, you were saying something.
I would love Hajat to explain more on 2 or 3 issues, our concerns that according to what is coming on board, we realize that there is a lot of unfairness. There is no equity. So maybe we need to know the basis. This is tax education that we have come to get from here. We need to know the basis on which they depend or look to be able to say, Mugwanya SS, Ndifuna Junior School, and so on, etekwa okusasula omusolo. Then, on the other side, as business partners, do they have any incentives that they look onto to support the private education institutions in appreciation of the service that we are extending to this country?
Before Hajat comes in the previous webinar, she had highlighted some of the incentives that I think she's going to throw more light on those as she responds to your questions, because there are more questions that have come in that I really want to add onto your questions. Hafsa,
yes,
you could answer that.
Yes, maybe what I would like to inform our viewers and maybe our panelists for today is the education sector. When we are to point out probably some of what I would call incentives to them. When we talk about VAT, I guess their services and the materials are exempted and zero rated respectively, implying that they do not pick VAT. So that keeps it to a level that we think could be a little affordable.
Maybe you
or
could
reduce
explain the zero rated.
What happens with an exempt service, that means that one, you do not charge VAT, and second, you who is offering that service, you don't need to register. That is the school, because they're offering an education service. So for an educational material are these materials that actually can only be used in a school setup, either pre-primary, primary, secondary, tertiary, and all that. Giving an example, because at times we get confused when we have things like counter books, we have exercise books, ideally these can be used anywhere. I can get the counter book and take it to my shop, and it becomes my record keeping gadget. So entirely it's not attached to a school. But I'm looking at, maybe we normally have MK science books, these pre-printed books, textbooks, whereby I can only use it for the classroom arrangement. I can't take it anywhere, but I wouldn't look at that. So when we look at such textbooks or equipment, ideally they are for the school, they are attached to school and nothing else. Those are those that qualify to be educational materials, and they are at zero rate. Zero rate implies that whoever is supplying this material will register for VAT, but will not charge VAT on that item. But the inputs they used to come up with this material will be refunded the VAT on the inputs. That is zero rate. That's the definition. And that is why Hajati Zawja should not register for VAT, because she supplies an education service. One who supplies the educational material is the zero rated. And that is the one I expect probably to register, because there is a refund mechanism on the other side. And maybe out of the policy amendments that we read this year, 2022-2023, we looked at educational materials. Initially, we were looking at educational materials that are published or manufactured within Uganda. Those are the ones that were zero rated. But now we stretched it to the East African community countries, that wherever you are getting educational materials in any of the partner states, as they are coming in, we will not add VAT onto that kind of material. So that is one of the amendments, because you may find that these schools have syllabuses here, there. This time I'm hearing of competence-based. I don't know, Hajati knows better. So we are trying to ask the parents to learn what competence-based is, other than the other one where I knew, read geography, this topic, those many things. So you may find you need a particular item from another country. You can't exactly get it here, but it's one of our partner states. So we made that amendment to make it a little more comfortable to the educational sector, in case I need to get that item from a partner state within the East African community. We need to avail a platform where it can be got at lesser volumes. And maybe to go to WHT. Hajat was
before
saying
we go to
it's
WHT,
not fair.
Yeah, because she was mentioning something about the disparity.
Exactly. Initially, when we were designating entities, we were basically looking at sectors. It's like I look at the hotel sector, then I designate whatever is a hotel by the description of their registration. That is what we have been doing over time. But this year, we tried to make a little bit of a shift. We looked at the volume of expenses for an entity. And we're saying if an entity can stretch as far as 900 million in a year as expenses, then probably it would be a good to go to designate. Yes, fine, it's what we used, but I think along the way, as we kept on engaging the different sectors, we have been looking at the disparities it's causing, because they're operating in the same environment. Ideally, when I'm Hajati's supplier, maybe who was not used to WHT because she wasn't designated then, when I come and she tells me, I will say, okay, Kankomeo. Then I look for another entity, Mugwanyas. In the event that Mugwanyas is not among the designated, then Mugwanya will not talk about WHT. Ideally, most of us may be turning to those that are not designated. So I think that is where Hajati brings it in that kind of fairness bit, because they are competing for the same clientele in the same industry, but those are some of the hinges probably we as the tax body need to look at moving forward, to see that we create a platform where everybody can compete on their own. Because when a supplier fails to supply you and another fails to supply you because of that, ideally you will have a little bit of a challenge, because we entrust our children with them for 3 consecutive months. They need to eat, they need to sleep, they need to be fine health-wise, and all those many things. Yeah. But the gymnastics she has to do to give me back my daughter or my son in the best shape is what is a challenge on the education sector. So ideally, yes, we designated, and when we designate it, it's for a whole year. Maybe moving forward, we are learning from probably a challenge that has been raised, and not only from the education sector, even others, because it is the same climate they are facing. Because your neighbor is here, but just because God helped you and you are a little higher than the other in terms of working capital, that means even the expenses could be higher. This one is withholding and you are not withholding. Ideally, competition may become a problem.
Yes. I'm learning, and I'm still learning, and I'm still interested. I would like to share, because education is not only related to private institutions. I would like to learn from the implementer of taxes, or the collector of these taxes, about the taxes in government or public institutions.
The ones levied on to government.
Yes. We are in the same sector, we do the same business, maybe they even have higher fees, charges, they even... are they keeping one eye closed over these? We want to really understand. Because one thing we are feeling...
Before Harriet answers...
is that at times our partners are not aware of the dynamics of the trends in our institutions. What happens is, these are private schools, charging school fees, 800 children at this amount. It's just a head count, and then times this, and then they say, you must pay, you must pay. It is our responsibility to explain to them that what they see is not what we are going through, and she has always mentioned that, but I want to share.
Before I get answers, going back to the exemption bit of it that she was trying to explain, Peter has again asked another question. Where does the taxation of the education institutions leave the practice notice of 2008 that was issued to exempt education institutions? I believe it had terms and conditions within
the corporate.
Yes, maybe what I would like to enlighten that listener. We had a practice note in 2008, and we gave an amnesty to the education sector for 5 years, which actually ended in 2013. So after 2013, I don't remember any other amnesty that came through. It was just a breather that we had to give the sector, because we had individuals who came up to actually help government boost the sector by investing in their money. Yes, it was a well thought of process that actually happened, and those who benefited. But maybe what we needed to do is, after the amnesty, to tell them that ideally we are back. I think you have got some kind of a breather, then let's do business as usual. So maybe that is what needed to be pointed out to come out clearly. Because I remember in 2013-14, we had a little bit of resistance in the schools. The proprietors, we had to come back on board and tell them, my dear, we are coming back. Let's see how we can come back together. Because an amnesty can't be for good. It has to be for a specified time. Tuetereze muko, and we need to come back and contribute to national development. Exactly. Exactly. But in COVID, what we did, we looked at the pay as you earn that you had to give us by 30th June 2020. Then we gave a small breather up to 31st December 2020, so that you can plow it back and see what can happen. Then ideally, then file. We gave amnesty to, we gave a breather to particular sectors, that is education, tourism, horticulture, and there's a fourth sector, to help them out, not fall out. But maybe because it was for a shorter period, and maybe because it addressed one tax type. then, because it was pay as you earn. And reason why it addressed one tax type then is people were laying out. They were laying off people. So we thought if we could give them a breather, then probably it could help in one way or the other. Okay. That is what happened. And maybe for penalty, this applied to all, where we waived penalty that was outstanding on our register as at 30th June 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So whatever was penalty on your ledger, irrespective of the sector you're operating in, we waived the penalty. So that we actually communicated. Maybe we need to amplify it, but we need to amplify it maybe more for those who didn't know. But there was a penalty waiver. You know, at times when the amounts outstanding are big, you even fail to get where to start from in seeing how you can make them good. So when we remove the penalty, to some extent, it created some good image on one's ledger. So, but moving further, we still need to see it. We still need to see how best we can help out the sector, because as you are, we are supposed to create an enabling environment for these businesses to thrive, because ideally when they close, we have nowhere we are going to collect from. And the narrower the register, the more we are going to get issues. So we need to see how best we can widen the register by seeing how I bring more people on board, depending on their eligibility, then those who are there to see how best we can support them, not to fall off the radar. Because once they fall off, then apart from supporting the sector, but ideally even supporting the country at large, because we need taxes for national development. And it is me and you who is going to develop the country.
There are tax incentives that were talked about in the previous webinar. You can talk about them. However, the question would still be, after you have enlightened us on that, the question would be, how can the school operators really apply for these incentives? Because it looks like the education system doesn't seem to be seeing
the incentives. If they are there, like the one she has explained is very, very indirect. You wouldn't really appreciate that it is there. It's not something that you can do.
Waiver. In fact,
no, I mean the VAT, the one you explained.
Yes.
Related to
the VAT. You may not see it because Hajat Indifuna, you're not VAT registered, but my dear, if you were, you would appreciate it by the volumes of what cumulatively would be in whatever is payable. Because at times, when you look at VAT, it creates the cost of an item to go up in one or the other. So with these exemptions, I guess, they are in good faith to see that actually they help out certain sectors. For example, like the education sector. Because apart from you making money and probably improving on your livelihood, we are meant to see that we educate the masses. So it is a plus on the government side to see that the educational sector is up there somewhere, because they help up with government. Because when you do an analysis of the government-aided schools and the private, way back when I was still studying, by the way, I only knew private schools. I knew government schools. I didn't go to private schools. I didn't even get that feel of a private school. But now it's the in thing.
It's my OG.
It's the in thing now.
It's my OG.
It's the in thing wherever you go.
Private.
Exactly.
Private.
You even wonder, why do we make choices for our children? You make this choice, knowingly that at times you might even not even get it. So some parents now don't even waste time. They say, wanga agenda kumbogo, whatever happens, let me wait for results and go there. Instead of wasting my time going round and round and round, yet I know I may not get what I want, and I have where I can get the quality of education where I see it. So now what is happening is the private has taken over by numbers, because government hasn't increased the government-aided schools in numbers. That if they were 20, now we are seeing maybe 50. In fact, some may even be disappearing in one or the other. So we are opting to the private itself. So that is why this sector is very important, because it chips in at a bigger percentage to see that we actually get the education we need for our children and probably for the masses moving forward. Yes, we talked about exemptions. Exemptions, we look at exemption for WHT, we look at an exemption, say for, because we have one for WHT as in itself, and we have one for income tax. But income tax, it's very clear. In section 2BB, we have examples of an exempt organization, and those are very clear: a charitable organization, a research organization, not for profit making, religious, and education of a public character. So that is where it eliminates Hajati Zawja's establishment, because it should be of a public character, which tilts it to the other side of the government aided. So our Vida Munenzija Nanjagala income tax. Yes, that is where it goes. Maybe for withholding, moving forward, there is an application where one can apply and see actually whether they could meet the requirements, because it's at least you should have been on the register for at least 3 years. You should be compliant in your filing and payment. You should have paid a particular amount. I've forgotten the figure in your taxes. Those are some of the things we look at. Then after that, we give you a certificate, exactly, for exemption. So it is worth exploring so that you should get the exemption. That means that when she supplies, she will not be deducted from. But when they supply her, the other suppliers are not exempted. That is what it means. So she still needs to withhold. But when she, Mbogo, is the supplier of a particular, I don't know, whatever it is, then maybe that is when it would come in. So those are some of the gymnastics that could be there moving forward. But I think ideally, as Hajati has said, we need to do more on tax education, because I don't see how a school can have a default assessment from URA. Because a default comes in when I am waiting for Hajati Zawja to paint the picture in a provisional return. She doesn't. I remind her either she's reading my communication or she's too busy, the year ends.